Well, welcome everyone to a live recording of the Ripple podcast. I'm here with Bill Joubert from the Louisiana Small Business Development Center at Southeastern Louisiana University. Bill, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh, wow. I actually work at the Southeastern University. We've got a small business development center there. It's probably more known for its success at raising capital, helping folks start up their companies, and expand. Mm-hmm. We've got a business incubator there, which has incubated lots of folks over the years. We've got a business research center that does a lot of research for local applied research and things.
So some people who know Five Stones know that we grew up in the incubator.
Yes.
It's where we got our start. Before that, I was a one-man show sitting at my kitchen table building a website now and then for someone. And I initially went there because of the office space, but ended up getting so much more out of it. One of the things that I've noticed is that we've got this incredible resource in our backyard, and so many people don't take advantage of it. So you mentioned things like let's start with the incubator program. Tell people what an incubator program is.
Well, as you discovered, it starts off as real estate for many people. They come in and they were just looking for a cheap place to live. And incubation has been around for quite some time. And for those of you who don't know what an incubator is, imagine a chicken incubator out in the farm. You know, you've got these chicken eggs, you put them in the incubator, you keep them warm, they hatch, and then at some point you kick them out of the incubator and they grow up to be full of chickens. Same thing here. A lot of the folks that come, as you're aware, they come in for real estate. They think that's the answer. I just need a cheap place to live. And over time, they start taking advantage of some of the resources. You've got incubators out there that are very, very specific and industry-driven. You've got some that are just technology. You've got some that lean more towards the biomedical field. So an incubator that would more that way, you might have more hoods and ovens and all those chemistry type stuff you'd see in a high school classroom, a chemistry classroom. So when you look at incubators, you're really looking at what resources they have.
Yeah.
And so at our incubator here, it's really the people. We have space, which is great. It's Class A office space, lots of shared space, conference rooms, and things of that nature. But I guess what people really are coming for, or at least learn to realize the value of, is the people. And with our Small Business Development Center there, we're very helpful. Some folks that come through treat it like like a real estate operation. That's all they do. They just want rent.
That's what I thought I wanted.
Yeah, but over time they start realizing, wait, there's a Small Business Development Center there.
Yeah.
And I got some gray hair. Been around a while. I got some great people that work for us. You know Brandy, you know Sandy, and you know Wayne and Miss BB and Melissa and Herb. But all those people can somehow sometimes connect with your company when you need stuff. It might be market research. It might be, hey, man, I think I need a loan. Help me out with that. And so Wayne and Brandy or myself will help pull you through that process. There's a lot of things that happen when a business starts. Most folks, when they start a company, it's really self-employment. They don't realize it. They call themselves a business, but it's that self-employment.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know. I mean, that's the challenge. You think you know. You usually know your task, your craft. But you just don't know what you don't know until, wow, I got to hire somebody.
Right.
Wow. What do I have to do to hire someone? Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to do. And you just can't pay them cash under the table.
Yep.
Okay? So it's that journey. It's like raising children. You watch your children, and you watch them, and you know what they don't know, and you wait for that moment when their eyes are open, or they're asking that question, or they need this. That's when you can come in and help, elevate that company or teach that child.
Yeah, I've found through talking to so many people that have started a new business that they end up as a business owner on accident a lot of times. And I guess it's not completely accident, but they're very good at their craft, whatever that is. So in my case, when I first started out, my background was auto repair. And my first business was an auto repair shop. And I was really good at fixing cars. So I just naturally thought, well, I'm going to open my own shop. And little did I know that I knew absolutely nothing about business. And I got a crash course in business one day. Now, this was in North Carolina, when a lady from the North Carolina Department of Revenue came walking through my front door wanting to know where our tax payments were. And I had not made any out of sheer ignorance. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not on that level of ignorance when they're starting a new business, but some of the things that y'all do, like helping people write a business plan, helping them get funding, helping them learn how to read a P&L and a balance sheet, like the basics of business. I'm sure that y'all see a lot of people that don't know how to do this stuff, right?
It's every day. You know, in our world, half the people are in business, and then half the people we see are looking to start a business. So if we go back to that self-employment thing we were talking about, most folks start off with that. They're self-employed, and hey, I'm going to start my own business, just like you did. Well, somewhere along the way, you kind of graduate to a business. You're in business, okay? And then somewhere after business, you want to become an enterprise. And that journey is there's a lot of speed bumps along the way. And some folks can't ever get past the business side, you know. And what does it really take to be an enterprise? I mean, what does that look like? You know, and in a small business, you know, it's a job. A business, it's still a job with some family responsibilities because you've got people usually working for you. An enterprise is when you get to the point where they don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe some leadership for creativity, maybe, hey, we need to pivot and start going this way instead of that way. But you're just turning dials in the back of the office. You know, you're there to help drive, you know, ideas at that stage. But so in your journey, again, you had started in the incubator, and we watched you grow, and you've gone through this process, and you're probably at that business fixing to jump over into an enterprise right there at that edge. And I'm real proud of you. I think y'all done a great job. Y'all were first on the scene, on the social media scene in Hammond, in our market, really, when social media was really starting to hit hard.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Now, just like a chicken incubator has a method of forcing the chickens out, it's when they hatch. Now, the incubator program that y'all run, and I guess that the most incubator programs for business, they have a method of making people hatch.
Yes.
And that is through the rent.
Yes. What typically happens is you're coming in at one rent, and that rent, I guess, at ours, I want to say right now it's about $250 a month for one office, and over time, and everything's included, by the way, everything's included. So you're not dealing with having to call the trash man, you're not dealing with the cable bill, you're not dealing with the internet. Everything's there.
Yeah.
So and it should be there because you don't want to be focusing on overhead. Your job is to grow sales.
Yeah.
And so in that philosophy, over time, every 6 months, the rent goes up a bit. And then 6 months later, it goes up again.
Yeah.
So somewhere in the third year, you've effectively doubled rent. And why that's important is at some point, you're going to start asking yourself, gosh, this is expensive.
Yeah. Well, you got to leave the nest at some point.
Yes. You do, and then that rent is what makes you kind of exit, because you're saying, hey, wow, I could get my own place for this price. And the idea is to kind of get you used to paying that market rate.
Yeah.
So most folks will stay about 2 years, sometimes 3. We've had some folks that have enjoyed the journey so much that they stayed on, and they just kept paying rent because they love the environment.
Yeah.
Because they're able to interact with so many other companies, and there's constant things people need to learn, and they'll know when they're ready.
Well, and one of the nice things about it is that when you're in the incubator program, your clients come in and they don't know that they're stepping into an incubator. They see one of the nicest office buildings in the area. They are greeted by a receptionist when they walk in. They, then come to your office and are to these meeting rooms, which are, the conference rooms are very nice, have state-of-the-art equipment in them. You have access to the business machines. So, I mean, when you get into the incubator, you have access to things that you would never, as a startup or even just a small business, typically have access to.
Absolutely, because you want and need those resources, but you don't have the cash to pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's the part of the whole incubation process. If we can help you be successful and focus on those sales and focus on getting the business models running, the money will come, and that's the idea. It doesn't always bode well for some types of companies. It really is a fit factor. For instance, retail just doesn't work in most incubators, although there is some retail incubators on the East Coast that I know of. But for us, what we're offering here really is the business environment and the real resources, the people. It's just taking advantage. Now, we've had companies come in, and they stayed for a year and never even talked to us. They just didn't need us.
Yeah.
And
I didn't talk to y'all early on. The value of the people came to me in ways that I never even realized. But then, shortly when I started talking to y'all, it was like, oh my gosh, look what I have access to.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray hair there. All of us have been business owners, and we all have MBAs, and so we've been trained to help people, and that's the difference. You could hire consultants who come in and their whole goal is to get in, help you, and get out and collect a check. Well, we don't really have that model. Our goal is to help you be successful because our paycheck is watching you grow. You get that big sale, you move out. That's a success for us. I mean, that really, really is. But some of the other companies that didn't take advantage of us were really transitional space. And that's something that we do. Most folks don't stay long. For instance, we had a company coming after one of the hurricanes, and he lost his building, so he moved into our incubator while he outfitted another building here in Hammond. He just needed a place to run an office for a while. So he was able to get his second building set up, working with us, and eventually moved down and got his company up and going.
Yeah. So the incubator is not just for startups.
No. In fact, I think some of the new successes that are coming out now, it's kind of a new model now where the existing companies want to be part of an incubator for a lot of reasons. Some of them want to be near the talent, say, of Southeastern University. So if you're a programming company, a social media company, you might be a graphics company, or even computer programming, you could come to an incubator, and those young folks, those young talent can work close to the school, and you're able to get some of that work done. Yeah. I think Invoke, who's wildly successful, that was his model. He says, I just want to be near the kids. I want to be near the talent. And he was very successful in doing that. It was, I guess, he was one of the ones that stayed on a few years later and eventually moved out, opened up his place in downtown Hammond. And a local success story. So
people tend to think of these tech companies, and the tech companies tend to gravitate towards an incubator. But you've had quite a few companies through the incubator that had nothing to do with tech at all.
Yes. I'm thinking of one. It was a German company that printed on things. It was a giant printer. That was the technology. So if you wanted to print a plastic board, make a piece of plastic look like a fence board, he had a printer that he could do that with. It was this new technology, and the idea was that as he developed it, he could put it at the end of a production line. So whatever you're building, as it comes out, it prints whatever you need printed. So his ultimate goal was to print the wood grain on dashboards. Okay, and so he was really successful, and he did a lot of projects, and ultimately it was bought, and I think it's an auto parts manufacturer company that took it over. Yeah. But he literally prints it. But other companies that have come through, we had a media company, kind of like a newspaper magazine type company that was there for a while, and they were successful. I guess success can be defined differently for different situations. Yep. Just having somebody start up and get going is a success. We've had some false starts. I had a game company that came in. It was a really good-looking game company. It looked like they had their act together. Well, after a couple of months, it was obvious it wasn't going to work. Yeah. So he was able to fail in a situation where he didn't get punished. Right. Come in. I got this idea. I think I can make it work, and he raised a little bit of capital, and then at the end of the day, he knew it wasn't going to work, and so he was able to close and close shop and go somewhere else. But in a commercial environment, what would that have looked like? Oh, I've got this 5-year lease. I've got all this money tied up into this startup. So this was a real nice, it's almost a dorm room environment, If you ever wanted to start a company in a dorm room, an incubator's not far from that.
Yeah. So we've talked about the physical resources that people get, but you mentioned people like Sandy and Wayne and Herb. These people bring some incredible resources to people. Tell us a little bit about each of those people. I know early on in my business, Sandy was an instrumental relationship for me. Just recently, you and Wayne have been just, I don't even know how to say it other than you may have literally saved my business by pointing something out to me. The Herb with the market research and all of that. So talk a little bit about these people and the things that they do that people get access to when they're part of the incubator and even when they're not part of the incubator, but just as the Small Business Development Center.
Yeah, well, I'm blessed. I am truly blessed. I have some of the greatest people working at the center. And sometimes I wake up and I find myself working for them, because they're doing such great work. My job ends up being helping them with whatever they need to do more of what they do. So a cheerleader of sorts sometimes is what it feels like. But let's say start off with Herb. Herb Holloway he runs our Business Research Center. And what a Business Research Center does is work with information and data. So it wouldn't be uncommon for a company to come in and say, hey, look, I'm needing a better understanding of how much computer programming labor is here. So Herb's one of those unique people who can go into these computer databases and pull down data and make sense of it. Okay, you go to these databases, it's just raw numbers that just pour off of the computer screen. Well, he can take it and he can boil it down into a 9th grade answer. And that's a real talent because businesses, close counts. I just need to know, it's about 95% or whatever. Herb can get you there. Yeah. And we have a phrase that we use, low cost, no cost research. So as long as it's supportive of our community, our region, and as long as it's helping grow jobs and grow companies, we'll do that work and we'll put it out there. It might be something as simple as I need a list of businesses, and those businesses, everybody with 20 more employees. It might be revenues of above 500,000, and it needs to be in these industries. I just need a list. Well, working with Herb and some other folks in our office, we can help generate that list, and that list becomes really gold for whatever those folks are using it for, whether it was sales or marketing research or something. So Herb plays a big role. On a community side, something as simple as the North Shore, the big venue in Slidell. There's a big venue in Slidell, the North Shore.
Like the technical park?
There's a big facility out there where they have events and things.
Yes.
And they had floated a millage to help pay for this thing. And so to help prove that it's being successful, every couple of years they'll come in and we'll do an economic impact study. And that's something that Herb does on a regular basis. And that's a real study, okay, boiled down to, half a dozen pages that you can take to that government official or you can take to the public and say, hey, this is what these numbers really are. So being able to jump from that academic highway where everything is so deep and complicated and it might be a research report this thick, he's able to boil it down very, very quickly and into something 9th grade that everybody can understand, and that goes a long way. I guess moving around the office, we've got Sandy. She's our assistant director and our training coordinator, and she's very, very good working with our training things, working with the public. She's our Facebook person, our social media person. She's won awards for social media, okay, because she gets it. She understands what businesses and people need to hear. They don't want 200 emails a day. They don't want 4,000 Facebook posts. She's very, very good at understanding the small business community because she's been working it she's been there almost as long as I have, I'm starting to think. And then she's working with the training, I think, with y'all.
Yep.
Social media had just kind of really came on the scene, and it was getting real hot. And we were looking around trying to think, oh my gosh, we got to help some people with this. So I think you and I had a conversation. I think it was Kim. Somewhere along the way we said, look, why don't we do some social media seminars? And y'all were the logical choice because y'all were already on the ground.
Yep.
You know.
And that was instrumental for us. And that's what I was talking about where Sandy was the big relationship for us in the beginning, was because we worked with her when she was planning out all of these classes, and then every time we went and taught a class, we were exposed to 30 or 50 or in a couple of cases up to 200 small businesses sitting there learning from us and seeing us as the experts in this world. And every one of those classes, one or two people would reach out, and some of them became clients. So like that was huge for us.
Yeah, I can see that. But that's a perfect example of what an incubator can do. Sometimes we don't always know what you need or what you're willing to accept. But when that finally clicked, I mean, it really took off.
Yeah.
And it's been so successful that now I got other social media companies come and say, hey, I want you to do what you did for Five Stones. And I'm like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
But I think you're truly a success that can't be repeated. You had the right drive, the right opportunity, the right time, and y'all came in with a business model that was really one that just was appropriate for the time. Your entrepreneurship, you saw the need, and that's the key. Man, success isn't about how hard you work. It's seeing the need. What problem are you solving? And the problem that you saw, okay, before we saw it, but the problem that you saw was these companies want to do social media. They don't know how to do social media. And they're not going to write a big check to do it.
Right.
Okay? So y'all came in with this smaller price point, with this very, I'm going to use Wayne Ricks's phrase. He said, you came in with a McDonald's menu. And it's like, okay, I'll take a number 2 and supersize that, okay? And you came in with that menu approach that really, really small companies could understand.
Yeah.
And it really hit the market at the right time.
Right.
And of course, the rest is history. Y'all have just done a real good job with it. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what Wayne does.
Oh, Wayne. We've been blessed with Wayne. Wayne is he's our senior consultant. And he's been with me, and there's always a joke because we can never remember how long all of us have been there because it's just been that many years. But Wayne is he's a finance guy. He loves to build business models, and if there's a chance at getting money, Wayne's that guy. He's the bulldog, okay, who knows what needs to be put in a business plan and these big spreadsheets and cash flow and all this. I'll never forget when he first started. He was new to our world, and I had gone without help, by myself with no consultants for must have been 3 or 4 months, and I was just buried. And I said, Wayne, come sit right next to me. So it must have been 6 months, I guess. He sat next to me, and literally we did everything together. And at some point, he just took off on his own.
Wayne is a guy that when he looks at a company's financials, he sees it in a way that most people don't. Like, he can find anything that's happening there.
It's almost like a doctor looking at, that blood monitor and the little thing, beep, 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 and the graph going across. Well, Wayne's got that knack. He knows what that looks like. He knows exactly where the money is and where the problem might be.
So for a company who is seeking finances or financial help from a bank or the SBA or whatever, Wayne is the guy that can look at everything and say, this is going to work, or this isn't going to work, and this is what we need to do to get it to where it will work.
To it will work.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just Wayne. All of us do the same. Wayne, Brandy, and I are all doing those things, but Wayne takes it to a new level.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at debt, he's got that down. So let's just call him, he's the heavy hitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what does Brandy do?
Well, the same thing. We're all skilled and certified to do a lot of different things. But it's helping companies start. And the way it works, you sit down with us. We sign a document, and the document says basically, you're asking for help, and you can't sue us or our university for all the free work that we do. And it says I get to follow you around for a couple of years and see how your sales went and how many employees you hired, how much capital you raised. So we're all doing that. So if somebody wants to start a retail shoe store, or if they want to start, I don't know, a car wash or even a manufacturing plant, they can come in and we'll sit down with them, and it's about an hour really to figure out what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it's about, telling us where you're going, what you're trying to do, and help us understand, we're going to figure out what you don't know and then leave literally with kind of a punch list. Here, you go to get these things, and we'll go get these things, and then we're going to pull this project through.
Mm-hmm.
So Brandy comes to us. Her family, I think, they owned an export company, and turtles of all things, probably 100% export, and so that's where she got her business acumen. She's an accountant by trade, and she's our newest member. She's been with us 3 years, I think, now. And what's really unique about Brandy is she brings a different style to what we do. Wayne and I have been doing this so long, we might get a little cold because we're just looking at the numbers. Let's get the numbers. Brandy's got a little bit softer touch. She's, I guess, she hasn't been completely converted to the financial world of just doing business plans. But she enjoys working with people.
And I'm sure that y'all look at people and their personalities and determine,
Yes.
the ones who need that softer touch. They can go to Brandy, and then you get somebody like me that's hard-headed that needs to be smacked upside the head every once in a while.
That would be
a way.
Wayne.
Or in some cases, the two of y'all double team me.
Yeah, yeah. It helps to kind of, the fit factors are everything in this, and we don't have the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian, we don't. What we have is a great process. We have a great center with great people, and if someone comes through that center, we're able to truly help them get where they want to go. But sometimes it really relies on the individual willing to participate. It's the old phrase, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, and some people just aren't ready. So the fit factors are a big deal, and I'm not saying everyone is so defined in what they do. I mean, Wayne does great market research. Wayne he's a real strategist. I mean, they all are, and we're all doing the same thing, but you were keen on some of their, I guess, more developed skills.
Yeah.
So, and I guess for me, it's probably more on the angel capital, probably more on the venture side, trying to work with some of the bigger projects. But we're all doing the same thing. And I've got other folks at the office, Miss BB, and I've got Melissa, who handles our grants and everything, and of course the university's there.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got lots of resources. And it's not uncommon. We've got a company that comes in and says, "Hey, I need this. I'm trying to get this put together." And it's like, "Whoa, I know a professor over here at the university. Let me connect you with them because they have this unique ability to understand what you're trying to do, or it might be a solution that they could provide for you."
Now, I talk about this amazing resource that people have. I mean, y'all are an award-winning SBDC. I mean, literally, haven't y'all received the award a couple of times now for the top SBDC in the country?
Yeah, it's probably one of the proudest things that we've done because.
I mean, listen to this for a second, people. We're talking about the top small business development center in the country, right here in Hammond, Louisiana.
Yeah, thank you. That was quite a ride, I think, to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at the work that we do, it's such an awkward thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do for a living? And it's like, oh gosh, where do you start?
Yeah.
It's easy to say I'm a mechanic. It's easy to say I'm an accountant. But when you say small business consultant, it's like, well, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
But it's more than that. I mean, we're problem solvers. We're economic development. We're trying to help folks get ahead, and that's where the award kind of came up. When you look at other SBDCs across the country, they're in a narrow lane, and so years ago we had a university. We bought the building, and we wanted to make it a regional economic development center, and so the SBDC was at the center of it. If the SBDC wasn't there, this whole building and incubator, none of this would exist.
Right.
It all hinges on the SBDC's success. So working with economic development people across the region, working with chambers of commerce, working with community leaders, working with anybody and everybody. Everybody get together and hold hands and say, hey, let's do this. Let's help get this thing going, whatever it is. And along the way, what we figured out was we're pretty good at leveraging opportunities and putting people together and not wanting to take credit for the success. We just wanted to make it happen. This needs to happen. So we figured out that we're really, really good at helping folks through that process. We figured out ways to improve the process. So when you look at the award, it's really, the award is an Innovation and Excellence Award is what they call it. And what happens is on a state level, we've got 7 or 8 SBDCs. And every year they put one up for being the best, I guess, center, or the one that they feel would bode well on a national level. Like they did something great this year. Okay, so they put us up. They would identify one on a state level, and the state kind of goes to regionals. Okay, so there's a 6-state region SBA looks at, and then if you win kind of that or seen as the excellence and innovation at that level, then you can go to the national awards. Yeah. So we're basically winning an award every 2 or 3 years.
You all have done an amazing job.
And it's the people, and it's really just letting them do what they want to do. The people in our shop are doing what they want to do, and they're having fun doing it, and great successes are coming out of it because we're able to connect with those companies. And a referral from you into the center means a lot because you're able to help people understand what to expect when you get there.
So a company that is interested in becoming a part of the incubator or just getting help from the SBDC, what do they need to do?
It's really a phone call. I love that phone call when somebody calls and says, hey, look, I heard about your incubator. How do I get in? And so we basically have a conversation. And it's fit factors. We're trying to help them understand, what do you need? What do we have? And then if it appears like there's a match there, like it might work, you can fill out an application, a one-pager, and then we take it to our committee, and the university committee looks at it and says, this is a good fit. Because we don't want to have, 2 businesses who are fighting each other across the hall from each other. So we're trying to really get that fit factor down. Yeah. And then you can move in, and some folks are excited because they don't have to buy some furniture. It's kind of like a dorm room almost. Well, there's a room full of furniture here. You can take that desk, you can use it, or you can bring in all your own stuff. We had Invoke painted the walls green. One room was green, one room was, I don't know, blue or yellow. It was fun. They made it a great place to work. Yeah, it becomes a campus of sorts, really. Yeah. For some, others are a little more, stuffed shirt. They like that traditional office environment, and they can have that too. We just had one company move in. Jimmy Trin, he just changed his name. They were rebranding, and so he's doing probably a little bit of what y'all do, but not directly. He's more on the video side, I think. So, yeah. And he's hired some local people, and he's ramping up quickly. Yeah, he does great work. Yeah. So tell us, I always like to ask people, what is something that you've been reading, or a podcast you've been listening to, or a thought leadership person, that you've been really getting into lately? What is that resource that we could share with our people? Well, for those who know me, I'm a Flipboard fanatic. Okay, and if you don't know what Flipboard is it's basically a phone app or iPod app where you click on the things of interest. Yes. And it pulls it off the internet and feeds it into this, so you don't have to go look for anything. So I Flipboard a couple of hours a day probably at home. It drives my wife insane, but I'll pick it up and I'm watching 3D printing. There's literally a block. 3D printing shows up. You click on it, and it just starts feeding you articles. Yeah. You flip, and you see one you like. You click on it, and bang, you get the update. What's happening in that article. I love Flipboard. So yeah, I'm a voracious reader through there. So I don't read a lot of books, but the ones that I have read and the ones that I are still hanging around that I'll occasionally open up and go, wow, and I'll just skim it just real quick. The E-Myth. Best business book ever, in my opinion. Yeah, it is one. If you haven't read E-Myth, that is just a book you just have to do it. And if you hate reading, it's an easy book to read. Yeah, it's kind of a parable of sorts. Yeah, it's a journey, is what it really is for I think people who read it. But the E-Myth Revisited, I think is I forgot what edit version it's on, but it's an awakening. It is definitely an awakening to go through that book, and it's a fast read. Yeah, but
it's especially great for that person who got into business because they were good at their craft and doesn't necessarily know the business side of things.
You know, it's interesting because you and I get that. Okay, because you experienced it.
Yeah, we've done it.
Yeah, and you know, when I talk to people, I see when people walk in with their company, it's always, you know, well, you starting this company? Yeah. Was this your first one? No. Well, I've had 5 other ones. I said, well, where are they now? Oh, they're all closed. You know, you hear those stories, and I just always come back to this thing: an entrepreneur on one end of the extreme. Okay, and imagine that line. One end of the extreme is an entrepreneur. The other end of the extreme is manager. And you can't be both. I mean, you literally have to slide down that continuum. I'm more of a manager than an entrepreneur. But entrepreneurs are doing different things. Mm-hmm. Managers are doing different things. And you know, your workers, your technical people are doing different things. So the manager versus entrepreneurs, you just got to figure out which side you're on. And an entrepreneur is going to be the one that sees down the road and says, here's a problem I'm going to solve. Very much like y'all did with 5 Stones. Mm-hmm. There was a problem. Social media is coming and no one's ready. Yeah. And y'all got out there and did it. And at some point, I suspect you hired some talent that helps you manage. And I think that person is really key to your success because you can't do both.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not that good at it. You know, their strengths align with my weaknesses. Mm. So, and I think that's important because it's, you know, every once in a while you'll get that anomaly of a person that's just good at everything. Mm. They can sell. They can do the bookkeeping and accounting. They are, you know, really organized, and they're good at their craft, whatever it is that their end product is. But it's rare that you find that person that can do all of those things and do them well.
And do them well, yes. Yeah. So people are the asset. It really is. People are your asset. It's your human capital. Yeah. And this big world of big money, and everybody's selling, and there's dollars here, dollars there. It's a cheaper here, 10 cents cheaper here. I can go on Amazon and get it for another nickel cheaper. Mm-hmm. I mean, small businesses have a place. When you're in a self-employed small business, right on the edge of this enterprise model, you're selling knowledge. You're selling solutions. And I keep telling all my businesses, don't ever forget, you know, you're solving a problem. The moment you forget what problem you're solving is the moment someone else comes in and solves it for you.
Right.
I tell my staff all the time, we're 2 years from being replaced by a website and YouTube. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's amazing. It really is, because all the knowledge that we've had, all the skills that we've had, you can almost get it on YouTube. You know? Mm-hmm. You may have to watch 100 YouTube videos to find it, but it might be there, and that might be our next business model. Yeah. And I'm always looking down the road. What is that next thing that businesses need?
Yep. Yeah. Well, Bill, we were talking. You are about to leave town.
Yes.
So give us a little glimpse into your personal life. You're going to do something pretty cool this over the next week.
Yes, I actually am. I have the fortunate, I was very fortunate. I talked to a lovely Canadian woman into marrying me. Mm-hmm. And she's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And verbally vivacious person, just full of life, okay? One of those people that won't stop talking because she's just so happy about everything. And she also came with 2 kids. And so I have stepchildren. Mm-hmm. And one of them, well, they're both in Colorado now, and one of them is kind of a little on the hippie side, you know. Yeah. She lives that kind of hippie lifestyle, kind of the free kind of thing, you know. Not free, but just she enjoys that lifestyle,
right.
And she's done well. She's taken care of herself and she's made a living. But she woke up one day and said, "I want to buy a bus." And I thought, a bus? Yeah, a school bus. So she bought a school bus. They've gutted this bus. And they're going to make a home out of it, and they're called schoolies, okay? And so she got in over her head, and she called and said, "Oh, man, can you come help me?" So Jill and I drove up there, and we spent a week, and we put electrical in. We had to design some stuff, you know, a lot of engineering that goes into that, a lot more than they thought.
Because a lot of people don't realize that in a previous life, I mean, you know, before the SBDC, you were a master mechanic.
Yeah,
and a
certified.
craftsman.
Yes.
So, like, this is right in your wheelhouse.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the easiest things I have to do. It
Yeah.
really is because, building cabinets and furniture, those skills are there. And then, of course, the mechanicking skills, as you know, as a former mechanic. So it was a great way to meld them together and actually truly help Ainsley's her name, to help Ainsley out. So anyway, long story short, it's partially done. And so I'm leaving tomorrow. And I'm flying up there, and I'm going to spend a week up there, and we're going to try to get the bus ready because she's got to leave August 1st to come back to Louisiana.
Okay. So she's driving the schoolie back?
Yes.
Very
So
cool.
I'll be taking some pictures because people are asking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll take some pictures and stuff. It's going to be a fun journey this coming week. It really will.
Well, you enjoy that. Well, thank you for being a guest today.
Mm-hmm.
We've enjoyed it. And, we appreciate it.
All right. Well, it's been fun. It's been fun, and I just can't help but ask, where's your next journey? What's next for y'all? Again, y'all have just been so innovative. I can't help but think that somebody's looking past next week. Or what's hot, what's coming.
Yep.
I've heard a little bit about the location economy because your business grew up in the attention economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where everybody's attention, social media. So now there's that location economy where, as I understand it, is all the mapping systems are now going to be linking with all the other data. So I'll be walking down the street one day, as they say, help me if I got it wrong, but I'm walking down the street and I'm coming up on a pizza place. That pizza place is going to ping my phone and say, hey, half off on a pizza.
It already happens today.
It already happens.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Geofencing and geotargeting. And we have a client that they are a GIS training company. So what is it? Geospatial information systems. And when we started working with them, it opened my eyes to a lot of this and, the possibilities of what can happen when you start melding, anything with physical space, the geographic location, down to some of the things like fighting fires, like forest fires, where they're using GIS systems to map exactly where the hot spots are and, having planes drop water on it, to, in the elections. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
The way that they use geospatial technology and mapping to run campaigns. There's so much that can be done with it.
Well, are y'all going to dip your toe in that
I think
pond
that,
a little bit?
I think that we will have to. It's a bit early for small business. It can be quite expensive to do some of it, and the majority of the clients that we work with are smaller businesses. But the interesting thing that we have seen in marketing is that everything that is available to larger businesses eventually gets to the point where it is accessible to small businesses. People are making things where they can be done on scale for a lot less money, down to, billboards. I just saw there's a company that is buying up unused billboard space, and you can go online and pay pennies on the dollar for billboard space. And you order it all online. You never talk to a person. You upload your artwork, and it just goes out to these digital billboards all over the place. And even with billboards, they're using mapping. And so, as far as what's on the horizon, I really need to do an entire podcast about what's on the horizon, because there's a lot out there.
And it's coming fast.
Yeah.
And change is coming fast. Everybody talks about the Uber,
Yep.
So everybody's going to be Uberized, if you would. So, it's going to be a fun journey to see because it's happening so fast.
I think one of the things that I see that is probably going to be the biggest continuing impact on marketing is the personal assistants. Things like Alexa and Google Home and Siri. The way that they're tying it into home automation and just learning from your activities all day long, it's affecting marketing more and more.
A little scary for a guy like me, but
It can be very scary. It really can. So,
Wow.
But yeah, thank you again for being part of the podcast.
Yes, it's been fun. It's been fun, this little journey.
All right.
All right.